Letter I. This is where people were allowed to move. They were allowed to move along this area. That, what you're seeing down there are goal posts, the equivalent of that. Those would have been moved up, fairly up high on either side. The ball would have been a stone that was shaped, rounded, and then it was covered in raw rubber. In order to play the game, people were allowed to use from their shoulder to the elbow, this part, and from their hips to their knees. They were not allowed to use their feet. They were not allowed to use their hands. And in order to do this ball game, you would have to bang it in different ways so that it would go through the ball, that middle piece. Okay? And the ball was obviously a little bit smaller than that, but not by much. It was a game that required tremendous skill. It was a game that people had to have a clear understanding of mathematics and physics. They had to understand angles. They had to understand momentum. They had to understand acceleration in order to be able to have moves so that they could bounce things in certain directions and understand how those angles work. Okay? There are conflicting agreements, I guess, onto how many people were in a team. Some people say there were 12 players on each team plus a captain, which is 13. 13 is a power number and is considered very important, okay? It's not an unlucky number. And we can kind of trace the unlucky 13 actually back to a Christianization of trying to demonize pagan beliefs and values. So you end up with 13, a power number in lots of different cultures. And then when the Christian church started to assimilate, and as a way of demonizing that, they demonized lots of symbols that went with that. So things like number 13 would have been one of those. So you would have 13 members on each team. That's one of them. The other is that you have 5 members on each team, and that symbolizes like a handshake, people coming together to shake a hand. The people who were trained to play ball were warriors, and warriors were people who were trained militarily. A lot of they had to have a lot of stamina, but there was a deep spiritual training of warriors as well. So there's an understanding of being a warrior that's beyond just a modern understanding of soldier. Okay? Yes? It's not really clear that women played the game, mostly because the ball game itself was played as a ritual connected to the to agricultural cycles. So they were men, because the agriculture, because it's about connecting and giving thanks to Mother Earth. You have to also understand that these cultures were cultures of duality, right? So you have essence. In order for things to be complete, you would need the essence of the man and the woman. So in the case where you have the earth, that is the essence of the female. So you need men to be able to bring a completeness to that. So in terms of the game, they're not. And yet women were allowed to be warriors, to fight battle, but not necessarily to play the game. Another thing that's kind of interesting around some of the things around the ball game is that much of it would have been played as a way of either initially asking for a good agricultural cycle in terms of planting, and then other ball courts would have been used, like this northern one, amongst the Nawa people. Let's see, the east is the place of light, and it is also, what is it? It's the place of light? Yeah, okay, it's where the sun rises, it's the place of light. The west is where the sun sets, it's the place of hope. The south is considered the place of women who give birth. And then the north, conversely, is the place where the dead go. But death also does not have a negative, sort of creepy, scary sense to it. Death is part of life. All things live and then die. I think in modern Western cultures, we've sort of sanitized death in a way that we don't think we'll ever die, and then we get close to it, and then people start having midlife crises and freaking out. But people also don't deal with death in a way that is very real. okay? We're not familiar with it. It's not part of our lives. We don't accompany it. People still do that very much today. There are great celebrations around death. If ever you come in the end of October, early November, there's the whole Feast of the Days of the Dead, along with just the rituals that are now within the context of the Catholic Church, but rituals that would include all of that. So what you have here then, where you would have the teams coming together to play this game, the winning team essentially is the one who scores the goal first, because it is so difficult. When you see the southern ball court, it has the same shape, but it's a slightly different one as well. There are places in different parts of Mexico where the ball court actually becomes more difficult. They create it in such a way that where the echoes are so much that you actually cannot tell where the ball has bounced, because it could bounce over there and it sounds like it's coming from over here. So you have to actually be able to be really quick and be able to recognize the authentic sound of the ball and not just the echo or the resonance of it. No? So there are all kinds of different paces that go with that. At the end of the ball game, whoever wins first, the captain of the winning team, would then perform a bloodletting ritual. Okay? Somebody asked me earlier what I mean when I say cosmovision, because I'm about to use that word again. Cosmovision is essentially how people see the world. It's a set of beliefs and values. We all have cosmovision. Every single person does. But it's a fancy word. Essentially, how do you see the world? Cosmovision. And so how you see the world and understand the world reflects scientific, religious, personal, family, cultural beliefs, all of that combined. So when we talk about Mesoamerica, although there might be different cultures with different languages, there are religious, cultural, spiritual beliefs that people very much hold in common. And so that's what we refer to when we say cosmovision. It's a word that will keep coming up through the course of the semester. I know for the MG group, that's actually the title of the course that you're taking with Anna and Antonio. Also with, you'll also encounter a lot of our speakers, visits, other things where people will actually use that term. Okay, so back to bloodletting. Again, you have to put this into a context, right, where the collective is more important than the individual. You have to put this into a context where there's a strong belief that in order to form completeness and wholeness, you have to engage energy so that you find balance. So you can't have too much feminine, too much masculine. There has to be a balance to that. You can't have too much darkness or too much light. Otherwise, the world would be destroyed. You need as much. You need night as much as you need daylight. You need hot. You need cold. Like there's all of this kind of notion of this duality. You have to find balance, and the idea is to walk in the middle, in that balanced part, because any extremes then can do damage, and that's a strong belief within a lot of the Mesoamerican, or within Mesoamerican cultures. So then the captain of the winning team would take a maguey plant, and you can see that plant that's cropping up right by that tree over there, the green one. It kind of looks like a big, huge, funky aloe vera in some ways. That's called a maguey. They have thorns on them. So they would take the thorn and they would prick their penis. They would then go to the different agricultural lands and they would draw blood. Why do you think that would happen? Given what I've just said about duality and what I've said about the collective over the individual, Dan?
Well, if the earth is female, then it has to have the male seed.
Right. Yeah, and so why blood? That's true in terms of the penis. That's exactly why.
You got me, because I would have just done the ritual with masturbation.
I know, I was about to say it.
I mean, but maybe you're supposed to have pain in order to have a good harvest or something? I'm not sure.
Okay, pain, that is an element to it. What are some, and I'll get back to that in a sec. Yeah?
Like, since he's on the winning team, he has some type of power in his blood that'll help cultivate the land.
But why would blood be important? It's life. All human beings have blood. We all have the same kind of blood. Lots of animals have blood. There's, blood is considered life. And so the color red in that sense is a life color. And so you use the male genitalia because it's about bringing that male essence to Mother Earth.